Welcome to 4AZ. I'm your host, Tyler McDowell Blanken, and we are rolling out the yellow carpet once again for another fantastic guest, Trevor Knox. Have you ever met a colleague and right away you just knew you would become fast friends? Well, that was the vibe when I met Trevor about 2 years ago. Trevor comes from a family of Arizona educators. He grew up in Phoenix, ultimately graduating from Arizona State University. He's worked at a community center, served as a secondary history teacher, and currently works at ASU's Teachers College. During this conversation, we discuss his path to the classroom, chaperoning school dances, transitioning to higher education, and the Splash Brothers. That said, thank you for tuning in. The reception to our first 2 episodes has been absolutely amazing and so humbling. If you enjoy what we're creating, please take a moment to like, subscribe, share, review, all the things. All right, it's time. Here is Space and Grace, a conversation with Trevor Knox.
Tyler, first and foremost, I appreciate you taking the time to set this up. If you are following Tyler, supporting Tyler, checking with Tyler, please follow his links below. This brother is amazing, truly an educator, a change maker. I'm just grateful to be in his presence today. Tyler, I'm doing fantastic. It's been a good week so far. Glad to be here to chat with you today. And thank you for setting this up. This is awesome.
Absolutely, my man. It's an honor to have you. I'm so glad you followed the plan. I asked Trevor to say all of those nice, great things about me. So we're already sticking to the plan, Trev, which makes me feel so good. So some quick background. I'm going to give you all the background on our guests and how I know them. So how I know Trev is we work together at ASU. Again, Trev is our amazing career coach. I'm on the recruitment team. And I'll never forget, Trevor, I think we met in maybe 2022. I don't remember the exact day or even the year, but I remember seeing you. I think it was first virtually and then eventually in person. And I was like, this brother does not have one single wrinkle in his outfit. Like this guy,
Tyler's crazy, man.
This dude is built different. So I sort of peeped that and I was like, okay, I got to get to know this guy. And here we are, all these months, dare I say, maybe now like all these years, year and a half, 2 years later, and you're on 4AZ. It's a true honor.
Yeah. No, from sending Salesforce cases to each other to attending work events to just chopping it up as young men entering an education workforce, working at ASU. I think we've built a professional connection, a professional network. I mean, you're someone who's a resource and a reference for me, Tyler. So get used to that. I'm going to be reaching out to you for stuff, but I appreciate the non-wrinkles and the freshness in my look. I appreciate it. But you yourself, sir, are very dapper. So give yourself some credit, please.
I'll accept that very humbly. Even if for our YouTube viewers, man, look, Trevor's even got on the polo, the blue and the white joint. Like, come on, you can even see there's not as freshly on. Does he iron? Does he not need to? I don't even know. Trev, we're gonna get into it, man. I shared with our audience that you are a native Arizonan. Tell us about what it was like to grow up in Arizona, specifically your K through 12 experience.
Yeah. So as Tyler said, born and raised Arizona native. 90% of my family was from the Arizona area. I had older parents, and I think that really played into my love for education, if that makes sense. My mom was superintendent, principal status. Aunts were in schools, teachers, uncles, PhDs, masters. So I came from a family of educators. So it was almost kind of bred into you that you're going to go to school and get your master's, get your doctorate, whatever the case may be. But I was definitely one of those kids that lived in an underprivileged area, if you will. So my parents, doing what they do, would bust me out to the Tempe's, to the Chandlers, to the areas with more, let's call it affluent areas and schools that, for lack of a better word, have better resources. And I think that was a good step for me. Allowed me to see there's more than just my neighborhood and what's around me. And to piggyback off that, Tyler, I actually used to work at a recreation center in the underprivileged area. So I then got to see like the flip side of what education, what mentorship and what guidance can be to young boys and young girls who need that. So I served as a mentor for many of years on this in the South Phoenix area on the South Side. But my experience working in K-12 or in K-12, I should say, was great. I got to surround myself with many individuals who were like-minded like me. I got to align myself with individuals who were, for lack of a better word, thought differently than me or acted differently than me. What I'm trying to make here is public school made me. Public school made me who I am today. Definitely some bumps and bruises along the way in public school because it's not perfect at all. But me transitioning now, working back in education, I really see myself as a change maker when working with kids, working with college students, especially trying to shift their mindset of how they can be an influential teacher in the classroom. Because there's a bunch of more Tylers and more Trevors getting ready to come through the ranks, and us working with teachers, specifically me on the career side, coaching them, guiding them. Just want to give them some better guidance and, for lack of better words, some better game along the way, Tyler, to help them. So K-12 made me, so I always have a heart for K-12 education.
That's what I'm talking about. So it sounds like the path to education being your chosen career field,
Absolutely.
that was sort of always omnipresent. When did you know? Was there a moment, or you looked at your family members and thought, this is what we do, it's in the genes, I'm gonna follow
Yeah,
their lead?
I think it was 60-40, 60% in the genes, 40% me seeking out my interest. I was an athlete all my life. So when I was in high school, it was interesting because my high school history teacher, my high school coach was my high school history teacher. So I got to see how he'd act on the field, but also how he'd act in the classroom. I was like, hey, like I could do that. I have that type of personality. I could coach. I could teach history. So I think that's when that 40% flip, Tyler. And I was like, all right. Like I could see myself being an athlete, working and coaching, students and children, but at the same time being that disciplined, that structured teacher in the classroom. So I remember we were watching Gladiator in my like junior year history classroom, and I was like, I love this movie. This movie's so dope. I want to be a history teacher that shows movies.
It was Gladiator.
It was glad, and still
This is
till
the
this
first
day,
I'm hearing of this.
still till this day, that's one of my favorite movies, Tyler.
Who's in that
But
joint?
yeah,
Like Mel Gibson?
no, that's Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe, yeah,
Oh,
Russell
okay.
Crowe. And I
Okay.
mean, obviously, you're reenacting the Gladiator,
Are there
Empire, and what went on back then. So it was like junior year of high school. Once
are there any brothers in Gladiator? Or that would
there is one, the guy who played in
that's,
Blood Diamond.
that's
Guy who played in Blood Diamond. Remember him? I forgot.
what I know
Yeah, I can't
I know
remember
who
his
you're doing.
name,
Great
but he was in
actor.
Blood Diamond, and he ended up being Russell Crowe's kind of guiding buddy along the way. So,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, that's where it started. Like junior year of high school is where
I need
my
to see that.
interest peaked out and when I wanted to be an educator. So,
That's beautiful. I remember in high school, I'm thinking of the history films we watched. We had a whole unit on MLK versus Malcolm X.
oh,
And I went to a predominantly white high school.
mhm.
My recollection is, in terms of student responses, I want to say it's skewed about 90%. I'm pro MLK, anti
Yeah,
Malcolm. I remember that documentary. I think we watched The Day After Tomorrow with Jake Gyllenhaal, but that was in
about
science
the
class.
crazy weather.
Yeah,
Wow.
yes, yeah, the Al Gore endorsed one. But I don't. We watched The Great Gatsby in English. It sounds like Gladiator. Gladiator was at the top of your list, and I think I need to add it to my rotation. I don't
Yeah,
think I've
no.
seen that all the way
And
through.
what was cool about it though is the history. His name was Coach Johns. By the way, Coach Johns, if you hear this, hope you're doing well. Coach Johns was always cool because he would bring it back. Like, yeah, he'd love to have some fun. He'd watch a movie, but we'd bring it back to historical concepts and historical topics. So it wasn't we were so far out the box that we were like, all right, what are we learning? He always made it relevant, and just how I learned. Like, I like movies. I like hands-on instruction. I think that helps me today as an advisor. I'm very hands-on, big energy. You know when you're going to meet with Trevor, what you're about to get. So I just try to carry that with me, along the way, Tyler.
Yeah, I can confirm that for sure.
Mhm.
So, okay, that's amazing. Tempe, East Valley, right?
Go
Definitely.
Padres. Go Padres.
Go
Marco Sinisa.
Padres.
Go
Marco
Padres.
Sinisa. Let's go. Absolutely. Okay, so that's helpful. So you didn't go very far then for college.
Yeah,
You
no, nope.
you went to ASU. You're a Sun Devil through and through. Tell
Mhm.
us about navigating college. My understanding, Trev, is you entered day one freshman year as an education major, and you graduated, of course, with your education degree. What was your experience like as a Sun Devil? And did you have any doubt at any moment about the career field?
So yeah, to backtrack 2 points, Tyler. It's actually interesting you say that because my family has an esteemed history with ASU. My grandfather, Marson Fulbright Warren, was one of the first Black football players to play for ASU. We're talking like 1940s, 1950s, back when Old Main was the building you went to go to school for ASU. So I would love to say I'm carrying the torch, but the torch has been carried far fold before me. I just kind of followed in the footsteps behind, the great individuals in my family. But yeah, I took a little different route. I actually did 2 years of junior college. Actually, back up even more, I was in high school taking college courses. Parents were always, specifically my mom, very driven into me. Like, education's one way to free yourself, and knowledge is what you're pursuing. So did my 2 years at South Mountain Community College, go Cougars. Then I transferred to ASU for my last 2 years. And it's interesting because the student teacher program's kind of changed since then and now. A lot more paid internships and students getting paid, which I love. But I unfortunately was not getting paid as a student teacher. I was boots on the ground, as I call it. But I mean all this to say I had a wonderful experience at the Teachers College. It actually led me right into my first job. The last school I was interning at hired me. So I did some teaching at a school right down the way from ASU. And ASU pretty much set me up on the path I am today. And I circled back, and here I am working with the Teachers College. So,
That's incredibly full circle.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
I was doing my research. It's interesting because I know you obviously, but I still had to do, it's the journalist in me. I still had to do some
Yeah,
research.
yeah.
You probably know this. If you search Trevor Knox ASU on YouTube,
Mhm.
I kid you not, there's about 5 different clips
Yeah,
of 2017 you
yeah, yeah.
talking about your fresh face,
Every
getting
time
ready.
every
You,
time
you
I
know
see
what I'm talking
it,
about?
every time I see it was Tyler, I'm like, two things. Geez, I needed a haircut. But two, I'm like, wow, that was like, I can't believe that was 2017. And here I am working for the Teachers College. So to your point, full circle experience. So wild to be in this position, Tyler.
Absolutely. Younger Trev, I would say same Trev.
Mhm.
You have a black polo on in those series of videos. No crease, no wrinkle. So you're consistent. I would say if
Collar pointed down, collar pointed
collar
down.
pointed down.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so I know back then you
Mhm,
were working in the community center in Phoenix,
mhm,
a
yep.
community center,
Mhm.
specifically in the Roosevelt area. Is
Yes,
that right?
South Mountain Community Center. That's where I got to experience a little bit of the hood, a little bit of some hardships, but I got to see, what it's like for students and kids like living in tough areas. And it's so awesome because, I got to serve as a mentor for them. They see me in there doing my homework. They're like, "Oh, Trev, you're doing your home, glasses on, laptop open." And it really was power and authenticity. Like I wasn't anybody who I'm not in there. I was the same Trev, and that led me into that mentorship, working in community college, working in those community centers, because students just respected the authenticity. That guy is gonna do his homework and he's gonna give you some knowledge and information. He's gonna try to help you. So.
I love that. Our paths. Well, two things. One, I also think that was such an important experience for you because you also met your significant other there.
I
So
did.
not only did you influence the hearts and minds of the youth, but your fiance.
Yeah,
Shout out to Tiffany, right?
yeah, yeah. I was gracious enough to be in the same building when like her youth group would come in and work with kids and students. So we shared the same interest of helping and working with the youth in underprivileged areas. And that's just where I think my love for like coaching and advising comes from. It's just I want to help. I want to help you get from where you are and set yourself up somewhere to be successful. So whether it's working in South Phoenix, whether it's working at South Mountain Community College, whether it's working at Arizona State University, the leader in innovation, as we all say. It's just helping people. I want to help.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that servant leadership.
Hmm.
So I want to hear about your experience then in the classroom. So
Okay.
you had um, a great experience. It sounds like at South.
Hmm.
You did your thing at ASU, graduated, still
Yep.
YouTube famous. All these views later. And what was, if you could think back to it, tell us about your time in the classroom. Do you
Yeah.
remember the first year? Do
Oh
you,
yeah.
what were the highlights of that time? Because I would imagine that you're speaking about being in the trenches. There's nothing
Hmm.
like that first year of teaching and kind of swimming upstream. But I know, I'm certain of this. I didn't know you back then, Trev, but I'm certain that you had such a huge impact, even as soon as that first year in the classroom. So talk to us about what your years were like in the classroom. Where were you at? I know we know it's history, but run us through those memories.
Yeah, so definitely the first year, deer in the headlights. I was young. I had a lot of energy, so much energy. Just needed to like channel it in a way that would be successful. Had some amazing mentor teachers and colleagues of mine who helped me kind of rope my energy in to channel it in healthy ways into the classroom. But first year definitely was kind of learning myself, learning how I would work with children, how I discipline them, how you manage a classroom. But I think what helped me, Tyler, and you can probably speak to this as well, is being authentic. Because students can tell, hey, this teacher, that's not who they are. Like they're trying to put up a facade or they're trying to be somebody they're not. So that first year, like I tried to be somebody I wasn't. And like I had to kind of go back to the drawing board and be like, you chose this profession for a reason. You chose because you want to help individuals. Like let lead with that, Trevor. Lead with that, Trevor. So year two, definitely, as they say, I settled into who I was. I definitely saw an uptick of students feeling more comfortable speaking with me about like their outside problems. I didn't see that year one. Students felt more comfortable. Hey, Mr. Knox, can I come in your class? Obviously, we're mandated reporters, got to report that stuff. But what I'm trying to say here, Tyler, is year two and year three, I caught my stride and I got more comfortable with who I am in the classroom, meaning I wasn't trying to be who I was not, wasn't trying to be something I'm not. God made me for a reason. I'm going to bring those skills to the forefront to work with kids in the classroom. So I always tell first year teachers as well, be prepared because you're going to learn. Even you thought you knew about yourself in your internship, but you're going to learn more about yourself when you get your first classroom. That's exactly what happened to me. Working with students one-on-one and seeing them go from somewhere, progress and grow, and end the year by saying, hey, Mr. Knox, your class was my favorite. And if I hadn't come in to talk to you every day about my home life or about my mom or dad or whatever, I don't know if I would have made it through seven. I taught middle school, by the way. Don't know if I'd have made it through seventh grade. So, hearing those testimonies as well, Tyler, also made it that much more worth it because it just gives you a tangible piece of evidence like my work matters. I matter. So year one was tough. Year two and year three caught my stride and kind of just sharpened who Trevor was as an educator and just running with it till this day. So
Wow, seventh grade. That's
seventh, yeah, middle school, middle
middle
school.
school. Such an
Woo-wee.
important time frame. I
Mm-hmm.
think back to my middle school years, and that was just there were some
Yeah,
highs, there were
I
some
I
lows,
always
there
I
was
always
a lot of in
I always tell
betweens.
people that middle school kids, which hey, we were all there, think we got it all figured out. I'm so grown, but you're only 14. You're only 13. You're barely going to your first school dance. Like you have a lot more life
School
to
dance.
live,
You remember
So for
that?
that,
That was the
yeah.
biggest moment in your life up until that
Woo-wee.
point.
Yeah,
What if I
yeah.
don't have a date? Is that not cool? But what if I
You might
ask
not
and they
cool
say
enough, peer
no?
pressure.
But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
how
So
many dances did you chaperone?
oh gosh, too many. Everything from like Valentine's dances to what was it, home. I don't know if they had homecoming in middle school,
That's
end of the year
We're doing that in the
dance.
East Valley, homecoming in middle school?
Yeah, I
That's
guess I don't know if they did or not, but I do
okay.
know that like
That's new.
it was those end of the year dances and those Valentine's Day dances. I'm just a little younger in my youth. Obviously, if I did it now, I just would have been let's get this done. But back then, I was bouncing around, making sure kids having a good time. But if I did that now, oh, it's all business. Starts at 7, we end at 9. Y'all gonna have your fun. I'll be right here.
I got to get home.
Yeah,
I one of the things I miss most about teaching are those dances.
Hmm.
Actually, I know we would get the emails, and I'm sure I did in high school. I'm sure it was like this in middle school, Trev, where folks would email the staff and say, "Hey, we really need chaperones.
Chaperoning.
If anyone can do it
Hmm.
out of the kindness of their heart, we would really appreciate it." And I think
Hmm.
by the end, I would not really be as willing to. As I was like year one, year two, because folks know new teachers can't say no to anything.
Hmm. Of
But
course.
I really miss those, Trev. I'll never forget, this was within my first few years in the classroom. I don't think it was year one, it was maybe year two, year three. I was chaperoning a dance and it was all fun and games. I want to say like there was some Miley Cyrus played, maybe some LMFAO. Do you remember LMFAO?
Oh,
Party
yeah, I'm
Rock
old
Anthem.
enough to remember LMFAO and Miley
Do you?
Cyrus. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. We're speaking the same language. I'll never forget when this is gonna be a throwback for you. When No Hands by Waka Flocka,
Wow.
Roscoe Dash, and Wale came
Ooh,
on.
still till this day, if that came on, Tyler, I'm still like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's still, listen, it still goes hard, but I just like that's when I knew, okay, this chaperone thing, like it's
I'm
not
not
just
built.
fun and
I'm
no, it's
not
not
built
just
for
fun
it.
and games. You have a responsibility to make sure that kids are
Yeah,
are behaving,
behaving, especially in middle
behaving.
school. Hmm.
I would imagine, especially in middle school.
Hmm.
So Trev, you're now at ASU.
Hmm.
Tell us about the experience of leaving the classroom because I've confided in a lot of my friends over the last few years, especially when I wasn't sure about what my next steps were. I was in my sixth year. I had 6 years in the classroom, and then I left, and luckily I landed on my feet at ASU. But that was one of the toughest decisions that I've made in my life. I think maybe unlike other professions, as teachers, it's not so much, oh, I'm going to spend 2 years here and then like I'm going to elevate to the next role, 2 years there, and then I elevate like that upward trajectory. Teaching obviously is from the heart. To your point, it's service oriented,
Hmm.
and it's such a salient part of your identity.
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but those years I was in the classroom, especially the first half, teaching was the most important part of my identity. I took it so close to the heart. Which isn't inherently a bad thing, but when we talk about wellness and balance, and I didn't really have a lot of that. I certainly wasn't practicing it consistently, and I know when it came time for me to look at my other options outside of the classroom, I really struggled with that because I felt like I owed the community, I owed the students I had to be a teacher, in perpetuity, as Mr.
Yeah,
Wonderful
and
on
that's
Shark
kind of
Tank
all we
would
knew,
say.
right? That's kind of all
So
we knew at that point.
yeah, so enough about me. How would you describe, or what was that experience like? When did you start kind of looking around at your options, and then when you decided to leave the classroom, how was that for you?
Yeah, so unlike you, Tyler, I didn't do a full 6 years. I did three. 3 years in the classroom was enough for me to see a few things. One, I think I got to deeply understand what I liked. I knew I liked working with kids and working and teaching, but it was more of the helping, mentorship, and guidance I would like. Like, I would love not to hear students' bad stories. Like, gosh, you're dealing with some bad stuff at your house right now. But being able to be that confidant, that safe place for students. I was like, hey, I could see myself doing that for a long time. So once again, thinking about masters, I hadn't had my master's degree at that point. Once again, I took a risk myself. I said, I'm going to leave the classroom. I'm going to go get my master's degree in higher and post-secondary education because I see myself in somewhat of an advising role, a counseling or a guidance role. Still, I'm kind of teaching, kind of coaching, I'm guiding, but I'm not lesson planning. I'm not in IEP meetings every other day, which you're probably familiar with as well, Tyler. So for me, it was tough in the sense that, like, once again, I just knew this for 3 years. Every person in my family was dang near a teacher or worked in a school. It was kind of scary to think about leaving, but I knew that becoming a coach, becoming a mentor was what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it in a collegiate setting. Higher and post-secondary education from ASU gave me that confidence, and, like, to your point, landed with the athletic department at ASU, got to mentor and coach some student athletes, and that was my foot in the door to higher level, to higher ed advising and coaching and mentoring. And by the grace of God, I'm here sitting with you talking about it. So that's kind of my experience with it. Definitely was taking a risk leaving the classroom because obviously there's family pressures. Oh, you're leaving being a teacher. This is what everybody's been doing. And it's
Yeah.
like, yes,
Tell us about that.
yeah.
What was
So I
that
mean,
like?
I think at the beginning we talked about how the influence. Mom was principal working in school, superintendent. I forgot my sister Joya. By the way, Joya, you will be sent this. Please share it with everybody. My sister Joya is a superintendent in Washington, was a teacher here for like 10 years. Matter of fact, she was a teacher at my elementary school when I was in like 5th grade. So my even older sister was like an esteemed educator and superintendent. So as I said earlier, the torch has been carried for me. I kind of just walked right up on it and grabbed it. But when I did choose to do that transition, having those conversations with individuals who I trust and love, letting them know, like, I understand this is the cultural norm in our family, go to school, be a teacher, be an educator. I still want to do that, but I just don't want to do it in the setting of the classroom. And like anything else, Tyler, we're living on borrowed time. We have to go for what we want. I knew that, the classroom will be there. I can kind of go back there if I want. I can go back. But, I want to try a few other things. I want to try this advising, this higher ed. And like by the grace of God, I ended up on my feet, to your point, at ASU. And I would hope to say I found somewhat of a home here. But the transition was different. I definitely missed those one-on-one conversations with middle school kids. But it's so funny because now I see some of them at ASU and I'm like, oh my gosh. So
For real.
swear
That
to it. I've seen like a couple of students, like I'll be walking by them at ASU and they'll look at me and I look at them and I'm like, I'm gonna use the word Johnny. Like Johnny, and like, oh my God, Mr. Knox, you were my 8th grade social studies teacher. I'm
get
like,
out.
oh, well, that was like 6 years. Like, well, they went through high school. So that was 5 years ago. I'm like,
They
oh my
did. That's how it goes.
God.
Yeah, they got to get the high school. Yeah.
Woo! So it's refreshing. It's
Oh,
also
wow,
refreshing
that's
seeing
beautiful.
this, seeing them older, 18, 19, 20, and still saying, hey, I enjoyed just coming to chat with you, just talking with you about life. And I think that's what transitioned me out and helped me get to where I'm at now.
Well, wow. From the staff side of things, if we can rewind back to those years in the classroom before we really get into ASU and the world of higher ed, from the staff side of things, how was that for you? What were the demographics like at your school? Because a challenge that I ran into consistently, and then I loved the schools I worked at, Trev. I was in Tucson and then transitioned up here to my hometown of Glendale. I met so many amazing people who I would not be here uh, today without their guidance, their love, their support, their belief in me. I had the experience often of being the only black teacher on campus.
Absolutely.
And it was twofold. On one hand, it was an incredible honor because I felt like it's really up to me to not only create hopefully a consistent, solid example for all kids, but especially the kids, especially the young men who look like me on campus. But then there were just so many instances I can think of where I'm like, does anyone else see this? I'll never forget, Trev. It was the end of my first year. We had a staff Jeopardy game the last
Of
day before summer.
course, right?
And we were asked, yeah, really well intentioned, really fun. Like I love Jeopardy. I grew up on Alex Trebek. Say less. I want to participate in this. So weeks prior, we were asked to send in, I want to say 3 facts about ourselves, and with the promise that you may be included in the staff trivia game. So last day before summer, we have a barbecue lunch in the library, and then after lunch, we're dismissed if your grades are in. Let's go. I'll never forget. We were about halfway through the game, and how it worked is on the big screen projected in the library, there would be a question that would appear. It was actually through Kahoot. Shout out to our educators out there and our students. They probably
Yeah,
know Kahoot.
Kahoot is still a
It's
jam,
that
by the
cool game. Yeah, it's still the jam. Yeah.
way.
So this is a long story because I want to hear from you. I'm just painting a picture here, though. So there may be 20 questions about staff members. So, for example, it would say, who danced on stage with Kid Rock? Who drove a taxi when they were in college? So on and so forth. About halfway through the game, and you have 4 teachers you can select from. So it's A, Mr. Johnson, B, Mrs. Williams, C, Miss Vega, D, uh, you know, Mr. Knox, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the question pops up. I'm building suspense here. the question pops up: who was once robbed at gunpoint in their life? And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like at one point in my life considered a career in law enforcement. Like, let's see what we got. And then the options populate. I
Yep.
can see your face. I can see your
Yeah, I
face,
just
right?
probably talked on my head roll.
And then
Yeah.
the option. I wonder what our listeners are thinking right now. And then
Yeah.
the options populate: A, B, C, D, and I happen to be one of the options, Trev. And so my first reaction to this was, oh my gosh, I'm just a newbie. I'm
Hmm.
like such a hot mess most days. This is
Yeah.
really cool that I'm on the big screen. And then at some point it sunk into me
Yeah.
like, oh no, like
I know.
I just saw Get Out like
Hmm.
2 weekends ago. Like
Yeah.
I think I know like this is not
Yeah.
gonna be what I want it to be.
No, it's not.
And what was what was interesting and maybe a little bit sinister about Kahoot is that you could see the how people voted. You could see which letter got the most votes. So even though half of the people in the room had never like did not know me, I
Didn't even come up and speak to you. Know you, Tyler.
no, because I'm a newbie. Like I have to, like that's how it
Mhm.
works. I think in education, is you have to prove yourself. Like stay 2 or 3 years, and then I'll get to know you, kind of thing. Totally get that because people have been there like 20, 25 years. But I got the most amount of votes, Trev. So we had to stand up if we were an option. So I stood up. I guess folks thought maybe I was robbed at gunpoint once. They don't know I'm like a suburban kid. Uh, and then we sat down and it was revealed, oh no, it was actually this teacher. Oh, blah, blah, blah.
Oh
And
yeah.
so
Oh, you're
we're
like,
just eating our pulled pork.
yeah.
Okay. So I share that with you because in
Mhm.
that moment, I didn't know how to feel.
Yeah.
And no one in that moment I felt really alone
Hmm.
because no one reached out to me
Yeah.
or checked in with me. And granted, I think part of it was the last day before summer, but then I think another part of it was folks maybe just weren't aware of the impact that can have. And luckily I stayed it out. I stayed 4 more years and met literally some of my best friends on earth and the most amazing kids, the most amazing families. So I'm glad I didn't just bolt after that day, but being one of, if not the only certified Black teacher on campus, I have had moments like that in my career where I thought, oh, this didn't really feel
Hmm.
quite right. I'm not
Hmm.
necessarily know who I should go to, or if I do share that, is that okay? Are people gonna label me or think I'm just a whiner or just like the angry like light
Yeah.
skinned dude, or I'm just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
kind
No.
of controversial. So all that being said, what was your experience like? What was as a professional on that campus?
Hmm.
How was the diversity? What was this a struggle for you at any point? Because we know 4% of Arizona teachers are Black. That's not a lot of us.
Mm-mm.
How did that impact you, or did it impact you at all?
Yeah, no, to your point, Tyler, I have had a few similar stories of that as well. I worked in the Tempe area, so Tempe is right near ASU. So the demographics of individuals who might look like you and I they're there, but just in smaller numbers. You have to kind of seek out those populations and people. But to your point, there were times where I was the only Black person on staff, male or female. There were times I was one of two Black males on campus. The other one worked in PE. I worked in history. So to your point, Tyler, and sometimes I try to like look at the flip side of it and what it taught me. It taught me two things, maybe three. It taught me three things. One, emotional intelligence. You might be able to agree with that, Tyler. Emotionally being able to monitor and proctor myself, whatever situation I'm put in, whether I'm right or wrong, to keep my emotions in check, to not lash out, to not respond in a manner that makes me look unprofessional. Definitely my experience in public school teaching taught me that. What it also taught me is that we hold power. When I say we hold power, when we talk, people listen. When we speak, people listen. So that is a blessing, and maybe not, I don't want to call it a curse, but it's a blessing, and it's like hey, I have some power here. How do I help navigate and use that not only for my own advantage, because that's not what I'm trying to do here in public school, but how do I, if I am on the only person of color on staff, that means my voice carries a huge weight. They're going to listen to what I have to say, whether they want to hear it or not. They're going to listen to what I have to say. So it taught me to be more powerful with my words when I speak and how I speak. And three, it taught me patience. That although I might know something is not correct or right, and I might know that this is not the way we do things or how things should be going, it taught me a patience and a meticulous way to document, record, and track things that happen. I became a master record keeper working in public school. Conversations I had with teachers, when I met my admin, I would document everything so that if we ever had to have a tough conversation with a parent, with a family, with my admin, I bring notes, documentation to that conversation. So it helped me get prepared too. Because as you know, Tyler, they want to catch us slipping, not only in like work, but just in life. It taught me to always be prepared. Not say I gotta have everything mapped out and always be prepared, but being sometimes that only person of color on staff, black male on staff, it taught me to move a little differently and know that I bring power, I bring energy, and I bring value to this room or to this school community. That's what it taught me.
It's interesting you mentioned that word community. I was going to ask a follow up question. I am going to ask it.
Mhm.
Were you able to find a sense of community on campus? Because I think too, um, that can also be tricky about the first few years in the classroom. You have so many great memories, and to your
Mhm.
point, Trev, one of my favorite aspects of being a teacher are that the bonds you create in kids coming to you just for an ear or for whatever it may be. They're just the best. Um, Teaching, maybe surprisingly to some of our listeners or viewers, can also be a very isolating
Absolutely.
job if you're not careful. And it's interesting because you're, what do you mean? Like, you have 100 150 kids every day. How can it be isolating? Once those kids leave,
Yep.
I've been guilty of this where I just close the door,
Mhm.
and on a good day I'm grading or lesson planning or emailing. On a bad day I'm crying because the day
Mhm.
is really hard.
Yeah.
uh, so how did you, all that being said, how did you find a sense of community on campus, or were you able to?
Yeah, for me, I definitely pick my friends and my circle a little more carefully. So I had to learn that though. Back then, and even a couple years ago, very open. We'll connect, we'll talk. The older I got, and this stemmed from being in the classroom, it focused and it helped me understand and try to have that filter of who's here to help Trevor grow, who is reciprocating this energy, who is pouring into me and I'm pouring into them on campus, or am I just giving, and not saying I expect anything in return, but it'd be nice to have something, come back my way. So it helped me really decipher, like, hey, who can I like confide in? Because even as teachers, you know this, Tyler, we'd go talk to other teachers about today was rough. I experienced X, Y, and Z. I almost wanted to quit. We experienced it all. But it was those few teachers, the small group whom I had to learn I could trust. I had to kind of share too much and it kind of come back like, all right, don't do that again, Trevor. For me to learn, like, you have to really, once again, going back to the power in which we speak, who I speak to and how I speak to them matters. So the small group, when I say small group, 5, 6 teachers out of a large middle school campus became my circle. Some of them looked like me, some of them did not, but that was okay because I knew that in a heart to heart, in a conversation, you were listening to just who Trevor was as a person, who Trevor is as an educator. And I respected that. So I think being for me, being a little vulnerable in those first couple of years, letting them know, hey, I have no idea what's going on. I need assistance. And it was those older, let's call them seasoned teachers that had been around and been there that kind of took me under their wing. Some male, some female would then work with me to assist me in that area. So at first it was a little difficult to find that sense of community, Tyler, but over time and through my couple years teaching, I was able to know who really had my back and my heart and who was just kind of just there, which is okay. But it just helped me decipher, and my filters gotten a lot better today. So
I call those people the OGs.
Yeah, absolutely. The
Those
OGs.
the
Yeah.
OGs, the North Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorite people. I think
Mm-hmm.
teaching at its best can be very communal, and those
Mm-hmm.
bonds. I mean, to me, teachers are the best type of people. They're heroes. They're
Mm-hmm.
selfless. And when, to your point, Trev, when you stick around long enough, you just start to develop relationships with those people. And I just
Mm-hmm.
think back to that Kahoot game was was a little wild,
Yeah.
but the fact that I stayed and I grew and I gave folks the benefit of the doubt and I gave them grace, much like our students.
Mm-hmm.
We want to give folks the benefit of the doubt, and we want to remind ourselves that no one is above learning. I know I've
Mm-hmm.
said some wild things in my day.
Oh yeah,
I've had to learn, I've had to
of course.
grow. Sometimes I actively knew I was doing harm to people, sometimes I didn't, but folks gave me the grace
Mm-hmm.
to learn, which
Yeah.
I think all of us deserve that,
Yeah.
especially in an educational context, whether we're talking about kids
Yeah.
or fellow staff.
Yeah. In my office right now, I have a big banner. It says "Give yourself grace," because that's kind of we all need it. Give yourself. Actually, it's give yourself grace and give yourself some space because you need both. Like
Hey,
relax, take a step back, give yourself
that's
some space. It's okay. So I wish I knew that when I was 21 teaching.
oh
Give
my
myself
gosh.
space, give myself
We
grace. I
back
would have
when we
like,
think we have it all, we
yeah,
have it
yeah,
all figured
absolutely,
out, right?
man,
No,
yeah,
we have
yeah.
no answers, even though we
No
think
grace and no space back then, none.
no, like, oh, I graduated from college. It's just
Yep,
smooth sailing from here.
yep. Mm-hmm.
Not always. That's not
Mm-hmm.
always how it goes down.
Yeah,
Well, Trev, let's just transition into higher ed.
yeah.
How's your experience been? So you shared with us you went to athletics, you were in that
Mm-hmm.
mentor advising role
Mm-hmm.
that you knew really spoke to you and that you
Mm-hmm.
desired.
Mm-hmm.
Working in a middle school, working at Arizona State University,
Ooh,
very different.
super.
Both, I would imagine, a lot of pros to each,
Yep.
maybe some challenges to
Mm-hmm.
both, particularly working at such a big
Yeah,
university. So sticking with that word about community,
yeah.
what's community look like for you at ASU, and how's the transition overall been to higher education? We may have some listeners or viewers
Yeah.
who are thinking about getting their feet wet in the higher education water. So can you
Mm-hmm.
speak to what your experience has been like now, being a stun devil, being a Sun Devil
Yeah.
staff member?
Yeah. No, I think the biggest change for me from middle school to large institution like ASU was at middle school, it was very small. Even though I didn't speak to every teacher, like I knew, oh, that teacher taught 6. Oh, that teacher teaches 8. Oh, they're the reading specialist. Especially at ASU and higher ed, there's a lot of layers. When I say layers, the unit you work with has layers to it, and the layer on top of that has layers. So higher ed first to me was understanding what's the structural hierarchy. It's not just teacher, team lead, assistant AP, principal. It's not that. No, no, no. So for me, I had to kind of learn who's the chain of command. Who do I go speak to about this? Who gets this email sent to them? Who needs to be included in this meeting? Higher ed, and Tyler, you can probably attest to this as well. It's a lot about like connections, like within the college you work with. Like, for instance, our listeners, they might not even know Tyler sends me things that I have to do. Tyler sends me like, hey, Trev, a student needs support. A district needs this.
For
So
sure,
even
for
his
sure.
team he works with has layers that then sends it to my team that has layers. So it's understanding which buttons to push, who does what, where do they do it, what capacity do they do it in. And also, Tyler, I'll make a point. Higher ed's knowing what your capacity is. Where do I stay? What is my role? What's my clear defined task? What do I need to do great? Because as we know, ASU is a massive university and higher ed in general is massive. There's a job for almost everything in higher ed, from ordering supplies to career coaching to recruiting to wellness to overseeing everybody. There's so many positions in higher ed. You have to learn what your area is, career coaching, an amazing recruiter. You know your area. I'm not going to go out there and recruit for Tyler. Tyler's not going to come review resumes for 4 hours. we know our silos. We each do it efficiently and effectively, and at times we cross. That's one thing about ASU and higher ed is like, although you might be siloed, you might do your own thing, eventually your disciplines and your offices will cross. So that was the biggest transition to me because I was used to go talking to my assistant principal for everything. Oh, I need this, I need that. Like when you're in higher ed, there's a couple different people you talk to that might all, you need to talk to all of them just to do one thing. So it's like, figuring out who does what are the layers, what is my clear and defined role, but also what I've learned coming up on year 2, coming up as a career coach, is who can I tap for support? Because I would sometimes try to do everything myself. Oh, I got to figure everything else out. No, there's somebody who does this. There's somebody else who's an expert in this. Let me rope or connect them in, whether it's recruitment, advising, connecting with the dean, connecting with the other offices. So it's learning all these pieces because middle school is so small, very siloed. ASU higher ed is massive. I would say one thing that individuals thinking about going into higher ed should look forward to is networking. You can network every single day working in higher ed. You meet new associate directors. You might meet somebody from an entirely different college that your disciplines cross each other. So it's networking, it's learning your clear and defined roles. It's learning the hierarchy, the structure, because it's not as simple as AP, principal, superintendent. There's lots of layers to it, and it's the willingness to get in there and figure it out. Higher ed is its own beast, but there are ladders to climb in higher ed. There are ways to excel and grow in higher ed, and I'm hoping to do the same in my position with ASU and kind of see where it takes me. So, little tidbits I wish. Oh yeah, and once again, give yourself space, give yourself grace. It's going to take time to figure out the higher ed beast, but those are things I wish I would have learned if I had to go back 2 years and start now. Taking those concepts in would have probably saved me a lot of like, I got to do this right now type of thinking. It's like, no, Trev, you will get it done because there will always be time to get it done when you're at work. So
Exactly. And your message of give yourself it's grace first and then space,
yeah,
or
well,
vice versa.
you can say either. Give
I can
yourself
do it.
space,
Yeah,
give
yeah, yeah.
yourself. It's just giving
It's
yourself the time to be like, hey, I did the best I can. I tried
amen.
my hardest. I gave it my heart.
Amen.
Now I'm taking my foot off the gas. I'm just gonna chill a little bit. Gonna let it soak in. I
Mhm,
don't want to feel like I have to go 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 go. Nope,
mhm.
space and grace.
You really have to do that in any, I would say, any
Mhm,
job within education, but especially being in the classroom,
mhm.
because not every day is going to hit. You may have the best intentions, you may have this lesson plan you thought was fantastic, but it's a numbers game, right?
Yeah,
You teach for how many days out of the year?
yeah, yeah.
150 or
I make a
80, or
yeah.
not every day is going to be a 10 out of
Yeah,
10. Not every day is
I
going to
make a
be
joke. I make a
Devin
joke
Booker
with
putting up
students.
70.
I make a joke with students because I go into classrooms and do workshops. I tell students, hey, it's going to be a Friday. It's going to be payday. You will have rocked the entire week, killed it. Didn't write one student up, didn't have to kick anybody out. Hey, I even got coffee and donuts this week. This is a fantastic week. And then 3 o'clock rolls around and you get a parent email, and that parent is pissed off. You have a choice to make how you're going to respond as an educator. Are you going to meet the parent where they're at and be combative back? Or are you going to take the higher road, the emotional intelligence? One thing I had to learn being a teacher, to say I had a great week. I'm not going to let this one instance, this one parent email throw off my amazing week. Because to your point, Tyler, you just said no day is going to be the same. You could have had a week straight of every day being great. Takes that one day for you to be like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that happened. So that's just something I try to take with me as I go. No day is going to be the same. But another thing I tell myself as well, and this has just helped me in life in general, higher ed, being a teacher, and things of that nature, is you gave it your best today. There will always be more work to do tomorrow. Look forward to that. But you gave it your best today. So hang your hat on that. That's helped me out as well.
I love it. I
Mhm.
also love a good exit ticket. So I have a two-part
Yeah,
exit ticket for
let's
you,
do
my
it.
friend. Question number one.
Mhm.
Who is this? Is can either be back in the day or current you. Who is your fashion inspiration? Is there a particular celebrity
Oh man.
or
Hmm.
brand you adhere to? Because we've established that you got the style points, my friend. Who's that fashion inspiration for you? Either past Trevor, current Trevor, both. Give us some game here.
Wow. All right. All right. So if I have to be completely and utterly honest with you, Tyler,
Please do. It's the
I,
only way.
I had to learn how to dress like when I started like working. So the dapper Trevor you see, the collared press shirt, the dress pant Trevor, like that's like version 3. There was version 1 who couldn't even like put on a pair of jeans correctly and a
Word.
collared shirt and no. So to your point, I had to like mold and grow in the fashion
It's
sense. But
professionalism.
I think for me, where I'm moving forward and what I like, I don't know if I have a specific person, but maybe it's a style. It's the jeans, it's the dress pants with boots, collar dress shirt, or a dress shirt. So classy, I wear it to work, but I can also wear it to dinner. I can wear it to church. And if I ever go to, not that I go to Vegas or anything, but if I did go to Vegas and need to get in one of them fancy nightclubs, like I have some fresh threads on. So I'm kind of in this area where like I'm buying lots of dress boots, brown, black, gray. Obviously got the dress pants. Got the slim fit jeans, not so much skinny. My quads are a little too big for the skinnies. I can wear the slims, I can wear slim fit. But
Something.
I'm
Okay.
I'm definitely getting into that long sleeve, the fitted jeans, the dress boots, where it looks dressy, like oh, this person's dressed nice. But at the same time, it's that this person could go to dinner and still look nice, go to church and look nice. So I don't know what you really call that, but I love flannels as well, like a nice fitted flannel with some fitted jeans and some boots. Oh, that's a fit. As I say, that's a fit right there, Tyler. So
That's tough.
that's kind of like what I like now. I like that look, and I mean I'm approaching the ripe age of 30. It's about time I get my fashion sense looking like an adult. So
It's a big one. It's a shift. It can be a shift for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
So, part B, final question for you.
Mhm.
I want you to imagine that I am holding the biography of
Wow.
Trevor M. Knox. I told you I did
Yeah,
my research.
yeah.
Uh, Trevor M. Knox in my hand right now.
Mhm.
What would you title the chapter that is about this current season
Oh,
of your
wow.
life?
Oh wow. That's amazing, Tyler. If I had to sum up this chapter or title this chapter now, it would be tunnel vision. I think for so long, me in particular, I cared about like people's opinions about me, cared about what other people might have had by a certain age. You know, I compared myself and my vision of focus like became clouded. It wasn't tunnel because I was too busy looking left, too busy looking right, too busy looking backward, too busy looking at everything else but what's right in front of me and my opportunities I have here. So I'm really all about, I guess, short little blurbs. I told you space and grace, little things like that help me go. So if I had to title this chapter, it's tunnel vision because those opinions, those thoughts, what's behind me has no value and is not going to make Trevor better. But what is going to make Trevor is giving him grace, giving him space, and having that tunnel vision to know you see yourself somewhere in a couple years, you see some things you want to achieve. It's going to take work, it's going to take patience, but you have to stay focused. So, tunnel vision is what I would call that because it helps us stay focused and it just kind of helps us guide along the way. It gives us something to look for. So, I've actually titled not only this chapter that, Tyler, but I think I'm going to title the rest of my year that tunnel vision.
I love that. I'm thinking we can play with like the concept art for this chapter. Of
Yeah.
course, it's you. It's the boots.
Yeah.
It's the slim
It's
fit.
the flannel, it's the slim fit.
Maybe
Yep,
like a
yep.
Young Jeezy or Ti type pose, like circa like 2010.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm here for it. Trev,
Mhm.
I'm so glad we did this. Where can we find you to connect and continue the conversation?
Yeah, so I think right down below here, our esteemed podcast host Tyler has hooked it up. That's my IG, tnox20. I'll throw out my ASU email as well. If you have any prospective higher education educators who want to have a conversation or just want to inquire about what it's like leaping into the higher ed field, TWKNOX at asu.edu. I'll repeat that. TWKNOX at asu.edu. I welcome emails. I welcome conversations about that. And to Tyler's point, if you just plug my name in Google, you'll find a YouTube video of me from a couple years ago. You can get in touch with me that way if you need to as well. So,
I didn't tell you this. Want to make sure I get this in before we finish. So I had a little graduation kickback
yep.
situation, and you and Tiffany came through. Which
Mhm.
again, thank you. That was
Wouldn't miss
amazing.
it for the world, Tyler. Would not miss that. You're coming
I,
to our wedding, by the way.
let's,
Be prepared for that invitation,
I'm,
sir.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't tell you this. This is fresh for the recording. Obviously, everyone loved you. No surprise. And my mom was like, "Can
Mhm.
we talk about Trevor? What a great guy." And she told me that she sees a lot of similarities between us. Of course,
Mhm.
like there's the light skin thing and the stylish thing. Like that's what it is.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she has coined us. You know, there's Steph Curry and Klay
Mhm,
Thompson on the Warriors.
mhm.
She has coined us the new Splash Brothers.
Yeah.
So from one Splash Brother to
Brother
another,
Kid.
this was an absolute joy, Trev. Again, much love and abundant joy to you today and always. I want to thank you all for tuning in. You can find us on X, Instagram, and Facebook at 4AZTeach. We're also at 4azteach.org. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We'd love for you to follow us and leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you have an idea for a guest, feel free to hit us up. Our inbox and DMs are always open, and we'll see you on the next one.